Welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Fellowship of the Rappahannock, a place where spirituality, connection, and community come together in perfect harmony. My name is Jeff, and it is my honor to stand before you on this beautiful, yet a little bit cloudy Easter Sunday morning. Today, I have the joy of setting the stage for yet another magnificent metaphorical journey, one that our esteemed programs director, Marlie Avant, will be guiding us through in just a few moments. To all have joined us this morning, whether here in person or streaming at home, welcome to this special experience. A warm, heartfelt greeting to any first-time visitors. We invite you to stay after service for coffee and refreshments, where we would love to connect with you. We kindle this chalice to awaken the sacred spark within us, a seed of divinity nestled deep in our being. May we nurture it, allow love to bloom and illuminate our path through the ebb and flow of life's unpredictable journey. As its purity flourishes, so does our truest self. And its roots entwine in our soul. May we recognize it as a lifeline that gently leads us back home. Last year on Easter Sunday, I stood here, or rather I sat in front of you in Fellowship Hall to share thoughts on Christ consciousness and how Jesus taught us that there is no sin, for God resides in everything, in matter, in perfect purity, and it lives its life out and then dissolves back into perfect purity. This year, I wish to turn our attention to the wisdom of Sri Aurobindo, an Indian mystic, philosopher, and founder of integral yoga. He says, "Behind the appearances of the universe, there is a reality of being and consciousness, of self of all things, one and eternal. All beings are united in that oneself and spirit, but divided by a certain separativity of consciousness, in ignorance of their true self and reality, in mind, life, and body. It is possible through a certain psychological discipline to remove this veil of separative consciousness and become aware of your true self, the divinity within all of us. This one being in consciousness is evolved here in matter. Evolution is the method in which it liberates itself. Consciousness appears in what seems to be unconscious. And once having appeared, it is self-impelled to grow higher and higher, and at the same time enlarge and develop towards greater and greater perfection. Life is the first step in this release of consciousness. Mind is the second. But evolution does not finish with the mind. It awaits to release into something that is greater, a consciousness that is spiritual and supramental. The next step of evolution must be towards the development of a supermind and spirit as the dominant power in this conscious being. For only then the involved divinity in things releases itself entirely, and it becomes possible for life to manifest perfection. Humans live most of their surface mind in their life and body, but there is an inner being within them with greater possibilities, to which they have to awake. And that pushes them to a constant pursuit of a greater beauty, harmony, power, and knowledge, for it is only a very restrictive influence that they receive now. We discover a true soul, which is not an outer mixture of mental, vital, and physical elements, but something in the reality behind them, a spark from that one divine fire. We have to learn to live in our soul and purify and orient by its drive towards the truth. There can follow afterwards an open upward ascent of higher principle of being. It is not, however, by the mental that this can wholly be done, for the mind only goes to a certain point, and after that it can only move around in a circle. A conversion has to be made, turning the consciousness by which the mind has to change into this higher principle, which will not merely release the spiritual self out of the world, but release it into the world. This process of self-discipline, or sadhana, is therefore long and difficult, but even a little of it is so much gain because it makes the ultimate release of perfection more possible. The whole being has to be trained so that it can respond and transform to the greater light of force and to work in nature, turning the will away from motives and self-interest to the truth of service of a greater reality than the ego. The one aim of this yoga is inner self-development, by which one who follows it can, in turn, discover the oneself in all and evolve a higher consciousness, spiritual and supramental consciousness, which will transform and divinize human nature. Sri Aurobindo, that was in 1934. Many of you, or probably all of you, are familiar with Marlie Avant, who not only takes the lead in directing this year's programming, but also lights the stage with her dynamic presence. Her reading of Emily Dickinson during last year's poetry service left us in awe. And her portrayal of character in Dylan Thomas as A Child's Christmas in Will had us all in stitches during the Christmas performance. In addition to Marlie's exceptional thespian talents, she has a remarkable gift for painting vivid pictures through her storytelling, both literally and metaphorically. Last fall, she transported us deep into the Amazon, where the sanctuary walls seemed to dissolve in the clouds and the floor transformed into the jungle canopy. We felt as if we were soaring through the forest, captivating by her tale of connection and interwoven threads. This week, Marlie will guide us through the profound journey of renewal, using awakening seeds of spring as a poignant metaphor. She will explore themes of vulnerability, courage, empathy, humility, faith, and hope, acknowledging how these qualities nurture and grow and allow us to bloom. So sit back, relax, join us in celebrating how each individual journey shapes a collective garden of resilience and strength, inspiring us to embrace the beauty found in the vulnerability and potential of renewal within ourselves and within the communities.
Just gonna let you do this. Thank you, Jeff. Now I have to live up to that. Glasses Hope. Blessing the Seeds by Jan Richardson. I should tell you at the onset, the blessing will require you do some work. First, you must simply let the blessing fall from your hand as if it were a small thing you could easily let slip through your fingers, as if it were not precious to you, as if your life did not depend upon it. Next, you must trust that the blessing knows where it's going, that it understands the ways of the dark, that it is wise to the seasons and to the times. Then, and I know this blessing has already asked much of you, it is to be hoped that you will rest and learn that something is at work when it all seems still, seems dormant and dead. I promise you, this blessing has not abandoned you. I promise you, this blessing is on its way back to you. I promise you, when you are least expecting it, when you have given up your last hope, this blessing will rise green and whole and new. Good morning. Happy Easter. I tried to look Eastery. Yes, this is a time of rebirth and renewal. And, you know, I want to also acknowledge that these are challenging times. And if I'm honest, I can say that I feel an aching sense of sorrow for what our country's facing and what's happening for the world at large. And I thank Eddie for his talk last Sunday. While it's natural to feel shut down and to want to shut down our feelings, it really is so important that we keep our hearts open. We must seek ways to nurture our spirits and reinforce our resilience in such times. My talk today will be about sowing seeds of courage and embracing vulnerability as a catalyst for renew. Let's start by looking at a seed. When a seed lies buried in the soil, it can't know what awaits it. It has no awareness of this beautiful flower that it will eventually blossom into. And yet there comes a moment when the call to grow becomes too powerful to resist. It's as if a mysterious force compels it upward, as if a secret dream possesses it, calling it towards its destiny. Like the seed, we cannot know what life holds in store for us. We cannot see the future, but in us is that same invisible life force, lifting us, offering us up to the light of a new day. One of the ways, and I think Eddie mentioned that we can feel renewed in difficult times, is to be out in nature. And I know many of you are nature lovers. And so I want to share a poem by a beautiful soul that really writes towards these times. He's a Native American named Angel Deer, Angel with 2 L's. There is a weight pressing down on the world, a grief that lingers in the bones of humanity. You feel it, don't you? The tightening in your chest when you wake, the strange restlessness that no amount of movement can shake, the sense that something, everything is unraveling and you are caught up in the pull of the undoing. This is the time of troubles, the time our ancestors spoke of. But listen, even now, the earth is speaking. Even now, the rivers and forests hold wisdom that can mend the torn fabric of our being. Even now, there is a way out of darkness. Surrender to your surroundings, not in the way modern humans surrender to distractions, to numbness, to the easy escape of TV screens and substances, but in the way the river surrenders to gravity, flowing into the embrace of the land. Go outside. Feel the wind on your skin. Let it remind you that breath is older than thought, and the world is far vaster than your worries. Step with reverence. Step as though the earth is alive beneath you, because it is. Lean against the rough bark of a tree and remember that this being has stood here for longer than any human sorrow. Press your palm to the stone and know that it has witnessed ages rise and fall, and yet it remains steady and unchanged. Drink from a running stream and let it teach you the way water knows how to move around obstacles, how it does not resist, but it simply finds another way. Breathe. Not shallow, hurried breaths, but deep, belly-filling gulps of air as though you are drinking the sky itself. Let the wind enter you, sweeping away what no longer serves you, clearing the debris of despair, fear, and heaviness. When the world of humans is too much, let the more than human world cradle you. The old ones knew this truth. Our grandmothers who sang to the seeds, our grandfathers who knelt in the dirt, our ancestors who listened to the whispers of the wind and the silence of the stones. They knew what we had forgotten. The forest does not ask you to be anything but what you are. The river does not demand that you solve all the world's problems before it will offer you its song. The earth does not require your perfection, only your presence. Let yourself be held. Let yourself be reminded. Let yourself become small in the face of mountains and vast in the embrace of the sky. And when you return to the world of humans, carry the silence of the stones with you. Move like the river. Root like the trees. Let the wind move through you so that nothing heavy lingers long. This is how we endure the times of trouble. This is how we find our way back to ourselves. This is how we remember what never was lost. Just as these seeds rely on the rich and nourishing soil to awaken its potential, we can cultivate the nourishing depths of our heart and soul. True freedom rests in each of our souls, like the flowers that renew themselves and rest in the seed prior to. It is in these hidden layers that true growth occurs. The miracle of renewal is not only about external circumstances, but also about the inner shifts and transformations that allow us to evolve and to awaken to our full potential. In times like these, many turn to their faith. Many turn to prayer, to meditation, to feel a sense of inner renewal. Mother Teresa wrote, "This magnificent refuge is inside you. Enter, be humble, close your eyes and follow your breath to the still place that leads to the invisible path that leads home." Follow your breath to the still place. Stillness and turning inward are vital to the world of the soul. If, as we age, we become more still, we will find that stillness can be a wonderful companion. The fragments of our lives will have time to unify, and the places where we feel wounded or broken will have time to knit together and heal. This embrace of quietude can bring such deep, abiding comfort and peace in a world that is so jarring to our senses. This place of presence is the least visited place on earth. Yet this infinite, eternal place is always here within us. It is the only place that is truly present and alive. Just as there are 1,000 ways to kneel and kiss the ground, there are countless ways that we humans experience the eternal, ineffable mystery that surrounds us and fills us with awe and wonder. This mystery is so vast, so unfathomable. How can we ever truly define it or name it? For when we are truly graced with its presence, we are more often than not left mute. The sacred does that to us, just like nature does that to us. And yet, we humans do name things. We have been given the gift of speech and the mental desire to know and understand things. And so the world has different names for this ineffable mystery: God, Allah, Shiva, Jehovah, Yahweh, the Great Spirit, Wankantonka, hundreds of names. And often we forget that it is the unnameable that we are seeking. And we're truly longing for that experience to fill us up with its essence. The naming should not divide us, for they are merely surface things. If we go deeper enough, we will find that it is all one. Thomas Keating, a Trappist priest, who was one of the principal developers of the centering prayer, shared a wonderful story that continues to touch my heart. He attended an interfaith conference where They were discussing the meaning of the third commandment, thou shalt not take God's name in vain. I imagine the discussion went on for some time and that everyone had a valuable theory of its deeper meaning. But at last, an elderly rabbi who was a Jewish mystic quietly came up to the podium and spoke. He said, "We Jewish mystics have a very different perspective about the third commandment." Now, the English word vain originates from the Latin word venus, meaning empty or void. In the Old Testament, Moses asks God his name, and he responds, Yahweh. Now, we never voice his name aloud. We allow it to fill the void within us. And then the elderly rabbi moved closer to the microphone so everyone could hear and began to breathe. He then said, "You see, he sounds his name and fills us with his presence in every breath we take. This precious breath, sustaining all our lives, such a blessing," he said. I find this beautiful. You know, how often do we pay attention to our breath? Or even if we're called to meditate, it's just, it's the breath. Okay, I've got to get through this in the meditation. But to think that this breath is truly what connects us all. There's no one living that doesn't breathe this. And even the earth breathes. This is one of our connections, truly our connections to the web of life. How can I not feel an intimate part of it when I really feel the sacred breathing me? Now I'd like to share a poem by one of my favorite poets, Rosemary Watola Tromer. Thank you, heart, for breaking open. Every time you hear of the throbbing ache of war, the devastation of hunger, the agony of humans choosing to hurt each other, may you always break. May you never grow callous enough that you listen to news of bombs and betrayals as if you were listening to a weather report. Thank you, heart, for letting yourself be stunned by the joy of the slightest of beauties, by the stilting gray hop of the bunny, the pink pucker of grapefruit, the crimson blush of amaryllis as the petals burgeon against the green bud. Though the mind likes to organize, you like to surprise me, like the way you rise up to the same rain that I once reviled, like the way you crave the silence that I once feared, like the ways you have taught me to love all parts of myself I once thought were unlovable. For all the times I have forgotten to say thank you, forgive me. I'm still learning. I will forget how to love, will forget to thank you again. But here, on the edge of who I will be, here I am, open as I know how, gratefulness growing, pushing against my own green. Our heart is a garden. It deserves our presence and tender, loving care during these challenging times. I'm sure you're all familiar with the story of the Garden of Eden, where God planted a garden eastward of Eden, and out of which a river flowed that divided into 4 rivers. Your heart is a perfect place to plant your garden. There is a powerful underground, rich with life-sustaining oxygen flowing from your lungs to your heart. If you lift your left arm, this is the east side of your body. Your heart sits eastward in your chest, out of which 4 arteries flow, 4 rivers. A map of Eden locates the garden within our heart with its steady beat ever calling us home. Beautiful metaphor, yes? And interestingly enough, in metaphysical terms, the inside or east means the inside. If our heart's a garden, how do we nurture those seeds? How do we sing to them as our grandmothers did? Do you remember, you probably do, Emoto's water experiment, where he suggested that water structures change when exposed to different words or different music? When he exposed the water to positive words and then froze it, the crystals turned out symmetrical and just absolutely exquisitely beautiful. But when he exposed the water to harsh words and to harsh music, they formed distorted, chaotic, dark crystals. Our body is composed of 60% water, give or take. One of the qualities we can develop as we age is a sense of deep compassion for ourselves. What are the word seeds that we plant within ourselves? Do we sing to the seeds? When do we offer kind words of compassion, of understanding? We're all gardeners who can choose to plant the seeds that bring us joy and lift us and lift our spirits, that remind us that of the beautiful blessing that this life gives us. Loving ourselves is not an act of self-indulgence. It is an essential remedy for these challenging times. It is a healing balm that not only transforms our lives, but also helps to transform a world in desperate need of love and empathy and compassion. For truly, we can only love another as much as we could love ourselves. As we embark on this journey of renewal, remember that it is natural to feel uncertain and vulnerable. And remember, too, that our vulnerability is the fertile soil where courage takes root. Embracing vulnerability allows for the budding of our authentic selves. You know, courage comes from the Latin word heart. When we step from our heart, it does take courage, and we do feel vulnerable. But oh, the world needs that. Go outside, go deep within, breathe the breath of life, touch your heart, plant beautiful word seeds, love yourself, have compassion for yourself. Let your presence become your lifelong friend, for it is. Last, but certainly not least, I will finish with this. We deeply need one another in times like these. We need authenticity and compassion, a place where we are loved as ourselves. I feel truly blessed to be part of this fellowship, where together we are sowing seeds of courage and compassion and inclusion and diversity and faith and hope. Together we are seeding a more beautiful world. And I have faith in what Julian of Norwich said: all shall be well, and all shall be well, and all manner of things shall be well. And so it is.
Wow. Everybody take a nice big breath. Any questions?
Sometimes I just like to hear myself talk. Marlie, some weeks are wonderful and other weeks are challenging. I've just been through a challenging one and I really didn't want to get out of bed this morning, but I knew that if I came, you would turn that challenge into, well, last week was pretty okay. So thank you so much. That was a lovely, lovely talk.
Yeah, thank you, Marlie. I needed that. We all did. I can't help but think we need something more. We need a fierceness as well. Because we need to act. We need, and with that love, what is the thing to do? What is the thing to do that's gonna, because it takes courage to act, because when you act, you're vulnerable. And so you need a fierceness to give you that impetus to go out and do it. So when I rant, I need to turn that rant into something productive.
Marlie, I have a personal question. How do you do this? How do you weave your words, your thoughts, your intentions for a service that moves us, inspires us, and lifts us?
It's interesting sometimes, so much material comes into me when I'm working on something and I go, what? Because it's like the opposite thing. And I go, how do I weave that? And it just kind of happens. It comes to me. And from a lot of it, just my own spiritual path. But I do want to say that, to answer you, that as we go in, we develop a tremendous fierceness. And one of the reasons why is because we have to confront ourselves. And that takes a tremendous amount of compassion and fierceness. And, out in nature is like we can ground. It's so important to ground and come from your truth. I mean, if you're meant to march, you march. If you're meant to do something else, you do that. And it is happening. The seeds have been planted. Do you see the seeds are awakening? People are waking up saying, we won't stand for this. It's happening. Trust that it is happening through us. And the ones that are meant to march are going to march. And the lawyers that are meant to gather and stop these, it's going to happen. Keep your intention, keep your vision. I spoke the last time about the world is as you dream it. Keep your dreams as fierce as you want them. And this is so important. There's the outer work and there's the inner work. And I can tell you from the inner work, at times when my parents were at home, we were hospicing my parents, raising a granddaughter who was a teenager and was rebellious. And one day she just laid it all over me. And I said, Roy, take her out of here. And I put my hand on my heart and I stayed with everything I was feeling. I just held it. I didn't, and some of it was not good, but I just held it with compassion and understood what was going through me. And I stayed with that honestly with myself until I calmed. By the time they came back and Roy said he had not talked to her, she came over to me and she sat next to me and she said, Grandma, I am so sorry. And, I heard you and we've gone through a thing with our son. I've done the inner work and there's been a transformation with him. So inner, outer, however your soul calls you is the right thing to do. And there's a fierceness in both.